Good morning, everyone. Myself Puspender, and today our topic for visually impaired videos is hormones from Dr. Israa Burhan books. The definition of hormones has been expanded over the last several decades. Hormones secreted by glands such as adrenal, ovaries, parathyroid, pituitary, testes, and thyroid were originally considered to represent all of the physiological relevant activities. Today, the term hormone refers to any substance in an organism that carries a signal to generate some sort of alteration at the cellular level. Thus, endocrine hormones represent a class of hormone that arises in our tissue and travels a considerable distance through the circulation to reach a target cell expressing cognate receptors. Paracrine hormones arise from a cell and travel a relatively small distance to interact with their cognate receptors or another neighboring cells. Autocrine hormones are produced by the same cell that functions as the target for the hormones. Neighboring cells may also be targets. Thus, we can classify hormones based on their action. Often, endocrine hormones that travels long distance to the target cells may be more stable than autocrine hormones that exert their effects over very short distances. A diverse array of hormones, each with distinction mechanisms of actions and properties of biosynthesis, storage, secretion, transport, and metabolism, just evolved to provide homeostatic responses. Hormone secretion. Endocrine hormones are secreted directly into the bloodstream. Exocrine hormones are secreted directly into a duct. Cascade system of hormones. For many hormonal systems in higher animals, the signal pathway originates with the brain and culminates with the ultimate target cells. The signals may be transmitted as an electrical pulse, action pulse, or as a chemical signal or both. In many cases, but not all, such signals forwarded to the limbic system and subsequently to the hypothalamus, the pituitary, or other glands that secrete the final hormone. Thus, hormone that then affect various target cells to a degree that frequently proportional to the number of cognate receptors. Classification of hormones are based on chemical nature and the mechanism of hormone action. Classification of hormones based on chemical structures are as follows: peptide or protein hormones, amine hormones or amino acid derivatives, and the third one is steroid hormones. Peptide or protein hormones. Most hormones falls into this class. These are water-soluble and may have 3 to over 200 amino acid acids, that is, hormones of the hypothalamus and pituitary, as well as insulin and glucagon of the pancreas. These hormones are synthesized from ribosomes in the form of long precursor proteins, prohormones, then packaged into secretory vesicles and proteolytically cleaved to form the active peptides. Insulin is a small protein MR 5800 with two polypeptide chains A and B joined by two disulfide bonds. It is synthesized in the pancreas as an inactive single chain precursor pre-pro-insulin with an amino terminal signal sequence that directs into passage into secretory vesicles. Proteolytic removal of the signal sequence and formation of three disulfide bonds produces proinsulin, which is stored in secretory granules, membrane vesicles filled with protein synthesized in the endoplasmic reticulum in pancreatic cells. When blood glucose is elevated sufficiently to trigger insulin secretion, proinsulin is converted to active insulin by specific proteases, which cleave two peptide bonds to form the mature insulin molecules and C peptide, which are released into blood by exocytosis. Amino acid derivatives. These are small water-soluble compounds containing amino groups, for example, adrenaline and thyroid hormones, catecholamine hormones, that the water-soluble compounds epinephrine, adrenaline, and non-epinephrine, non-adrenaline are catecholamines named on the structurally relative compounds catechol. They are synthesized from tyrosine. Catecholamines produced in the brain and in other neural system functions as neurotransmitter, but epinephrine and non-epinephrine are also hormones synthesized and secreted by the adrenal gland. Like the peptide hormone, catecholamines are highly concentrated in secretory vesicles and released by exocytosis, and they act through surface receptors to generate intracellular second messenger. They mediate a wide variety of physiological responses to acute stresses. The thyroid hormone T4-thyroxine and T3-triiodothyroxine are synthesized from the precursor protein thyroglobulin MR 6,60,000 up to 20 TYR residues in thyroglobulin and enzymatically in the thyroid gland. The two iodothyroxines residue condense to form the precursor to thyroxine. When needed, thyroxine is released by proteolysis. Condensation of monoiodothyroxine with diiodothyronine produces T3, which is also an active hormone released by proteolysis. Steroid hormones. These are fat soluble and all are derivatives of cholesterol. For example, adrenal cortical hormone, androgen, estrogen. Steroid hormones. The steroid hormones are synthesized from cholesterol in several endocrine tissues. They travel to their target cells through the bloodstream, bound to carrier protein. More than 50 corticosteroid hormones are produced in the adrenal cortex by reaction that remove the side chain from the D ring of the cholesterol and introduce oxygen to form keto and hydroxyl group. Many of these reactions involve cytochrome P450 enzymes. The corticosteroids are of two general types defined by their action. Glucocorticoids, such as cortisol, primarily affect the metabolism of carbohydrate. Mineralocorticoids, such as aldosterone, regulate the concentration of electrolysis. K positive and Na positive, calcium positive, 2 positive, and chlorine negative in the blood. Androgen and estrogens are synthesized in the testes and ovaries. They affect sexual development, sexual behavior, and a variety of other reproductive and non-reproductive functions. Their synthesis also involves cytochrome P450 enzymes that cleaves the side chain of the cholesterol and introduce oxygen atom. All steroid hormones act through nuclear receptors to change the level of expression of specific genes. They can also have more rapid effects mediated by receptors in the plasma membrane. Peptide hormones are insulin, glucagon, catecholamines are epinephrine, eicosanotes are PGE1 from arachidonodes. Steroid hormones are testosterone, vitamin D is 225 dihydroxy, vitamin D3, retinoids and retinoic acid, thyroid are triiodothyronine T3, and thyroxine. Nitric acid are nitric acid from arginine plus oxygen. Hormones are hormones classification based on their action. For group 1 hormone and group 2 hormone. Group 1 hormones are lipophilic hormones which readily pass through the lipophilic plasma membrane of the target cell and interact with the receptors which are located intracellular in either the systole or the nucleus. The receptors for the different steroid hormones are found mainly in the cytoplasm, and the receptors for the thyroid hormones are found in the nucleus. The hormones of group 2 are water-soluble hormones which does not penetrate lipophilic cell membrane readily. The receptors for such hormones are located on the outer surface of the target cell surface receptors. Mechanism of hormone action. The first step of the hormone action is binding of the hormone to a specific receptor of the target cell. Hormone receptor complex activates the hormonal action. Hormone receptors are large proteins which are highly specific for a single hormone. Due to their specificity, a particular hormone will act on a particular tissue. Mechanism of hormone action at a systolic nuclear level. Several hormones, that is steroid hormones, adrenal or gonadal and thyroid hormones, bind with the receptor inside the cell rather than in the cell membrane. Because their hormones are lipid soluble, they readily cross the cell membrane and interact with receptors with the cytoplasm and the nucleus. The receptor for the steroid hormones are found mainly in the cytoplasm, and the receptor for the thyroid hormones are found in the nucleus. Cell membrane receptors of hormone action. The receptors of group 2 hormones are located on the outer surface of the target cell. Because these hormones are water soluble which do not enter lipophilic cell membrane. Hormones that bind to surface receptors of the cell communicate their action through intermediary molecules called second messenger. The hormone itself is the first messenger. On binding of the hormones to the receptor, a conformational change occurs in the receptor that causes activation of the G protein that consists of three subunits: alpha, beta, gamma, GDP. Inactive G protein convert to GTP. Active G protein interact with other intracellular signaling enzymes such as adenylate cyclase, which generates CAMP for many hormones, that is epinephrine, glucagon, calcitonin, PTH, etc. Phospho phosphatidylinositol calcium second messenger. Certain hormone receptor interaction results in the activation of the enzyme phospholipase C through a specific G protein. Phospholipase C enzyme catalyze the breakdown of phospholipids in cell membrane, especially phosphatidylisitol biphosphate PIP2 into inositol triphosphate PI3 and diacylglycerol DAG. Glands. A gland is an organ in an animal body that synthesizes substances such as hormones for release into bloodstream or into other cavities. inside the body or its other surfaces, exocrine and endocrine glands. The following glands make up the endocrine system and some of the hormone secretions. Pituitary gland secretion is of growth hormone, prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, oxytocin. Hypothalamus gland secretes such of each of thyrotropic releasing hormone, growth releasing hormone, corticotropin hormone, and gonadotropin releasing hormone. Thymus. This gland secretes hormones that are commonly referred to as humoral factors and are important during puberty. The role of these hormones is to make sure a person develops a healthy human system. Pineal gland. The pineal gland releases melatonin, which helps the body recognize when it is time to go to sleep. Testis. This gland produces testosterone. Ovaries. This gland produces both estrogen and progesterone secreted by the ovarian follicles of the ovaries. Thyroid of thyroid stimulating hormones with T3 thyroiodine, thyronine, and T4 thyroxine. Adrenal gland releases norepinephrine, epinephrine, and cortisols from medulla and cortex part of adrenal gland. Parathyroid gland releases calcitonin and is also called as parathyroid hormone. Pancreas releases insulin, glucagon, and certain digestive enzymes which are helpful in digestion process. That's all regarding hormones. Thank you very much for being so patient throughout.